Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing Back to Black. This was directed by Sam Taylor Johnson. This is a biopic about the legendary singer Amy Winehouse, who of course died far too soon. Y'all know at this point that I'm not really a big fan of the biopic, particularly the Hollywood biopic, but I have reviewed quite a few of them, especially lately. I did, like Napoleon, Ferrari, Priscilla, Maestro. We all know how much I loved that one. I often find the structure of the biopic to be kind of a reductive summation of somebody's life. It is the bulleted version, but it also, I think, shows us often how we feed into the sensationalism of how we filter a lot of these historical subjects. But it's also a way to clear some names associated behind the scenes, and then also it's a way to gain a lot of awards recognition in Hollywood. So yeah, just the whole thing is very, I don't know, strange and creepy to me. So I wasn't too riled up about this one, as you can imagine, even though I consider myself a fan of Amy Winehouse and her music. There was a documentary that came out about her called Amy about 10 years ago at this point, and yeah, I thought that was pretty good, and I figured it would suffice. And this film, yeah, I mean, it struggles with a lot of the things that I typically hate about biopics, for sure. There's a lot that I struggled with here. There was a lot that I was really annoyed by, borderline insulted by at points, but I can't sit here and tell you that I absolutely hated this film, because I didn't. There were individual elements that I think stood out, like there was some fizz and some spark. It was just only in flashes. I don't think it's completely without craft, and I do think it actually owes a lot to the central performance by Marissa Abela. She did a pretty good job of capturing maybe the essence of Amy Winehouse, and at points she almost ascended into like a soulful place, but just in flashes. But I can't fault her completely, because so much of this film, yes, it's more about, it feels like capturing the essence of Amy Winehouse rather than really trying to understand her with any sort of depth. And so the result of this really just feels like elevated, kind of made for TV material. I wasn't completely sold on Abela's performance, I would say maybe in the first act, and I mean more just the section where we're getting to know her family life. They're trying to give her interior world some background and some texture, introducing the grandmother and especially the father figure here, or I should say it's her actual father, but yeah, I don't know if Abela naturally captures that wry kind of spunk, that rebelliousness, maybe in that section of the movie. Amy Winehouse herself just oozed this type of personality. It felt like she was kind of putting on and trying to get into that sassy sort of body and headspace, but I will say maybe 30 minutes in, I felt like she really started to find her groove, and that's when I found the performance to really get into a solid place. And I think she's a very strong performer. She can kind of go through all of the range of emotions, I think, where it's very cinematic. And this is a difficult role, obviously. I mean, there's the pressure of the type of role that it is, but I think just in the sense that the role itself is not given much punchy, meaty material for her to work with. So she's really trying to find all of her motivations herself. It is not her fault that the movie just does not have a solid foundation of, yes, that motivation for the character, where the pain is really rooted in something. I have to say, the opening shot of the film, I was quite intrigued by. It's an image of Amy, and she's like, it's a very much caught in the immediacy of something. She's running on the street. She looks very unkempt, frazzled, something like that. And the camera is above her, and it's in motion. And yes, there's something about that unbridled quality where I thought, maybe this will have something. Maybe this will be an attempt to see the human side of this woman, or at the very least, maybe it will offer something, or a new perspective to the biopic, something fresh about it that honestly I feel starved for. But no, I would say maybe a couple minutes into the movie I could tell, no, there's an artificiality to this film that I'm just not responding to. It was so paint by the numbers, and like I said, that opening section with the family is crucial when it comes to understanding Amy so far as what drives her toxic behavior. But very little of that is set in motion. Really, we just get a sense that she has a quaint life. She has a grandmother played by Leslie Manville here, and she is an extraordinary actress, and this role is just, it's so excessively expository and sentimental, and yet she's such a sophisticated performer that it feels very natural. And that's what's so great, is these actors, they're taking subpar material and they're making it feel a lot more nuanced. Unfortunately, we are standing on very faulty ground, and it's glaringly apparent to me. Yes, we get a sense of who she is, Amy Winehouse. We get a sense of the music that she likes to listen to, and like the clothes she likes to wear, what she likes to do with her friends in a very montagey sort of way. Nothing in the narrative really gives us proper building blocks for any of that to materialize into something that is interesting. And for a film that is made about Amy Winehouse, like I said, we have a lot has been, said about her. A lot has been written about her. There is a documentary that, like I said, is pretty good. So it's like, what do you feel you have to offer here that sets you apart? What does this do? Like, what kind of spin on the material are we getting out of this? I'm just not sure there are any answers here that satisfy me as a viewer. There is one very good scene that I think stands apart, and it's what introduces kind of the antagonist of the film, or I should say the love interest, Blake, that is going to become Amy's eventual husband, and he's going to kind of derail her life within the film. Because so many of the scenes feel kind of abrupt, and they feel heavily expository, but no, this one took its time. It had some personality to it. You kind of want to see where it goes. It's a credit to Jack O'Connell, who plays Blake, because I honestly think this is maybe the best performance in the film, or at least this scene in particular is maybe the best acted scene in the whole film. Now, this is a hard role to play because, yes, everybody considers this person a villain in the media and otherwise. He's been hated for many, many years by fans. And even just the real guy, he has a vibe to him that is not necessarily approachable, we'll say. But it's very important for the character here to be likable, at least in this scene. We need to like him. We need to be on his side, because Amy likes him very much, and we need to see what she sees. And this is a meet cute that really settles into a place where, yeah, you start to feel the spark, and you're excited about the chemistry between these two people, and you're interested to see where it goes. And yes, there is an eccentricity to this guy that you can sense, but yes, you can't help but fall for the charm too. But unfortunately, beyond that scene, that relationship doesn't build for us emotionally. Instead, it feels, again, very rushed. It feels almost like a montage. The abruptness with which all that drunken swagger disintegrates in this character feels very manipulative to me, and yeah, it's just not authentic. It's very clear, I think, that the film wants to blame a lot of Amy's eventual downfall on that toxic relationship she had with Blake, as well as just her grandmother dying being a big one. But that's where the film really starts to piss me off, because that is such a thin conceit. The notion that this woman's serious, serious pain is coming from just those specific occurrences, yeah, that's, again, insulting. It's like the seeds were always there, but the film only reveals it in little hints, little stray lines here and there, without ever trying to tie those threads together. I am so much more interested in the why. As in, why is Amy so attracted to the bad boys all the time? What is it specifically that draws her to Blake, within her personality? And why does somebody who has a clear aversion to being famous and, a certain amount of attention dress the way she does? That's also a very interesting contradiction. Why does she drink so excessively? And why does she rely on her father often as some sort of blind protection for her in a way that is pointedly concerning within the film, and yet none of it is explored? Amy's father in real life, was a major red flag to a lot of people, and, there was a clear creative bond that the two had, but there's also clear narcissism going on here, and there's something seriously troubling within this relationship that I think begs to be explored. I'm a lot more interested in this relationship compared to her relationship with Blake. But I don't think that will ever happen while the real Mitch is still alive, because he seems very desperate to clear his name, his reputation, so he can no longer be villainized publicly. And I believe he is the head of Amy's estate and all of that. So yeah, all of this makes sense why this is so cookie cutter, so whitewashed. And I've said this before. I said this particularly, I think, in my Maestro review. It's like when the family has too much control over the creative liberties, when it comes to the biopic, it's hard to achieve anything artistically vulnerable or true. And so far as this relationship is depicted, you don't need to know anything about Amy Winehouse and her father to know that there is just something not right about this, and the writing is just incredibly poor here. The idea that this movie, is trying to celebrate Amy Winehouse and show her as a human being or whatever, and it's like, no, again, Daddy is still in control, and he doesn't have to face any consequences of that. And yeah, just the hypocrisy there is gross. You can make Mitch a fully dimensional character without making him just a villain. And, I watched The Iron Claw for the second time recently about the Von Erich brothers, and I think that is a really good example of how to do it well, the way that they depict the family relationships there. There's clear tension between the father and the sons, and that generational gap is very apparent in the movie, but I don't think it ever sees the father as a bad person or the mother as a bad person, but it never discounts their flaws as parents either. But yes, even though one of the Von Erich brothers is removed from the movie for creative purposes, I still feel like that one is a lot more respectful, again, to the historical subject matter. It's much more interested, I think, in capturing the spirit of that time and the spirit of those people a lot more than this is. In the second half of the film, we are seeing a lot more of Amy's downward spiral, and I think it wants us to latch on to that in an intimate way by making everything a little bit more kind of abstract and cinematic, but it just never lands. I don't feel any tangibility of this woman's pain, especially just the physical pain that results from doing all of those terrible things to yourself, drugs and the self-harm and all of that, the bulimia. It's like, yeah, that's gritty and none of it is materializing. So we have a damsel here that we can't understand, sinking for reasons that we can't explain. I almost felt like the third act had some influences coming from Blonde, and that's the movie that came out a couple of years ago about Marilyn Monroe. And I know people probably consider this controversial, but I think that that film, while it doesn't work for me overall, I do think it has one of the more unique spins on just the biopic formula that I've seen in many, many years, even though technically it's not a biopic. That film, I think, tries to find more the meaning within the human experience, but through, yeah, a lot of that dreamy, abstract stuff. Most of it, again, doesn't work for me, and yet there's something about the commitment to that meta tone and the artistry of it that I find to be a lot more pronounced and a lot more rich comparatively. And it's willing to go to all of those places that this one is afraid to go. The symbolism and the abstractions, though, in Back to Black, yeah, they leave something to be desired. I mean, we have a caged bird here, and that bird makes several appearances, especially at the end of the film. Spoiler alert, but yes, there is the bird, and Amy goes up the stairs, looking up as she's guided by the light, and yeah, that's the ending. And then it's like, Amy died in 2011, and you're like, okay, so what was that? The walking up the stairs, like was that supposed to be some sort of giving us hope? It's like, after what? After all of this destruction? I was very confused so far as what we're supposed to take away from that emotionally. This was just a wasted opportunity, ultimately. And yeah, it just reminds me, I think, of the way history creatively can be distorted or misinterpreted, and how that changes the way that we look at it just in life, especially when it comes to who has the estate rights and who has creative control. All of those things are very interesting to me, a lot more interesting than what we actually have here. I didn't hate this film, but I certainly found it to be annoying. It does have its moments, but I think just most importantly, it introduced us to some promising talent here in the performances. But honestly, if you want a better essence of what Amy Winehouse is about, I think just watch the documentary, Amy, from I think 2015, or just listen to her music, the real music. While the actress here does a really good job of, impersonating the voice, yeah, there's just something lacking there, and I would have preferred to hear Amy, as it is very raw and very specific. Or just listen to, an interview with Amy Winehouse. You could listen to maybe a 2-minute interview with her, and it is way more interesting and way more personable than anything you get from all of this smoke and mirrors. But yes, that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website, as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons, who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch my videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.